So the question could be asked, what can be done to help prevent or mitigate against social engineering? And we've already mentioned a few, including user training that should be done and policies that should be in place. And as part of those policies, including administrative policies, we should have separation of duties. So that prevents a single individual from having the rights to completely destroy or compromise a system. It'll also help reduce fraud if we're doing a separation of duties approach. There's also more great nuggets on tools and techniques like this in the CISSP course. If you want to go take a look at that for additional details on things like separation of duties and rotation of duties and other items related to CIA. And CIA in the context of security represents confidentiality, data integrity, and availability, which is what CISSP is primarily about. And regarding our list here, we'd also want to have controls in place regarding access, so that if we have sensitive information, it's not just laying around on file systems. It should be accessible only by the authorized user who needs that information, which also goes back to the rule of least privilege. So if Bob is in sales, Bob should have access to all the tools and features he needs and data he needs as part of the sales team, but he should not have just unfettered access to other systems in the company. So that way, if he does get compromised, he won't have the ability to offer the attacker anything outside of what he has rights to. There should also be proper logging and auditing in place, because we absolutely want to see what's going on the systems. And here's a good practice. Let's say we have a AAA server. AAA is an acronym for Authentication, Authorization, and Accounting. And as an accounting server, we can have all of our logs and messages sent to a centralized location. And a great practice is to have one of those servers which is not accessible by the typical admin. So if this is the AAA server that the admins have access to, we might want to have another one that gets a copy of all that the admins do not have rights to. That way the admins themselves can't go to the AAA server and simply delete the records. It also implies that the hacker, if he gains admin rights, can't go over and start deleting records on the server, this server right here over on the far left, because he doesn't have access to it. Because you and I absolutely want to know what's going on or what has gone on in the network and on the systems. We should have the proper policies in place. And the policies for a company are really the responsibility of the senior management team. Now, it's not their job to actually implement the policy. They're not creating access control lists, and they're not in human resources doing background checks on the users themselves. But what they are responsible for is identifying at a high level what the policy should be regarding sensitivity of data, et cetera, what the risks are, and then having their management team below them and the technicians below that actually do the implementation and verification of those policies. And if there is sensitive data that is not being used anymore, but you need to keep it, a company needs to keep it, they should go ahead and archive that. So they still can get access to it, but maybe it's not online for the attacker as well to just grab it. And while we're talking about archives, we should also have a proper backup of our critical systems. So that if there is a compromise, maybe there's cryptography that's been implemented through ransomware on our critical systems, we should be able to go ahead and restore from a backup and get that data back all the way up to the point of our last backup. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.